So, hello and welcome everyone to the Pure Variance 6 Enterprise launch event. My name is Robert Hellebrand. I'm heading the field application engineering team at Pure Systems. And I'm very excited today to present you the highlights of our upcoming release. As you can see, I'm not alone to do this. I also have my colleagues with me who also want to briefly introduce themselves at the beginning. So Rachna, please go on.
So, hello everyone, and welcome to today's event. My name is Rachna, and I work with the consulting and field application engineering team at Pure Systems. Thank you. And now I hand it over to Danilo.
So, thanks, Rachna. Thanks, Robert. Yeah, my name is Danilo Beuche. I am CEO of Pure Systems since its beginning, and I'm extremely happy to announce the sixth major release or major version release of Pure Variance since its initial launch in 2004. We had about 100 releases of Pure Variance in those 18 years, but this release is really one which gets us excited. It had lots of new things in it, which we are going to present, but it also provides all the functionality you have seen in Pure Variance 5. So it is an easy upgrade. We made it easy for you to go to Pure Variance 6. We will discuss this to a certain extent later in the presentation. And in the simplest case, you just take it, install it over your existing installation, and you're ready to go. But you will see, you will probably want to do a bit more on the deployment side, as some of the new capabilities require a bit of additional setup. We will have you covered there. However, no data migration required. So all the things are easy for you to go forward. We will show you in the next minutes a couple of these new capabilities as highlights, which will be followed by a Q&A session, where you can ask us questions. So we would ask you to keep your questions ready when we come to the end of the presentation. Maybe you can already type it into the chat or in the Q&A panel before we get there. So at this point, I would like to hand over to Robert, and he will show us one of the big highlights of Pure Variance 6. Robert.
Yes, thanks, Danilo. And let's start with the first of the highlights we want to present today, which is our new Pure Variance web client. Some of you may have noticed that already with Pure Variance 5, we dipped our toe into the topic of webification and provided a model viewer that allows you to view feature models and variant models that are located on a model server via your browser. And we also added a configuration wizard there so that you can configure variants also via the browser. We heavily extended on that webification side to get to the new Pure Variance web client that I'm going to show you and give you an insight into in the next few minutes. So let's get started. For that, let's assume I'm a product line engineer who wants to add a feature to feature model. So to do so with the web client, I navigate to my web client login page. And here I start by entering my username and password, which will get me to the start page where I can see all the projects I have access to, as well as some other useful links. From here, I can select the project that I want to work in, which leads me to the projects view, where I can see the whole project I have loaded with the feature model, with the variant models, everything. I can also easily switch to other projects from here, as well as switch the revision I'm working in. Here I'm right where I want to be. So I will next just look for the feature model that I want to edit. And by hovering over it, I get the options shown that I have to interact with this feature model. In this case, I want to open and edit it. So I click on the open icon and my Pure Variance feature model opens. So let's say I want to add here a new feature for a new market. In this case, I want to add the USA as a market. So I'm looking here first for the regions in my feature model. And I can now easily add this feature by hovering over the parent feature where I want to add this feature and click on the create feature action. This leads me to a dialog where I can give the feature its unique name, optionally also a visible name if I want to do that. I can change the type of feature and select the variation type the feature shall have. And by saving, the feature is added to the model. Now, let's say I also want to add a relation to that feature to express that all variants that go to the US will need a certain other feature, in this case, the automatic hazard warning driver assistance system. To do that, I hover over my new feature, and in the upcoming menu, I click on the Create Relation button. This leads me to another dialog where I can set the relation type. It's already set to requires, so that's fine, and gives me the option to search for a feature. So I start typing hazard warning, and you see the available features that fit my search pop up. I select it, click save, and that's it. I also created a relation so that if I select USA in a variant, hazard warning is required. Okay, cool. Then let's make use of that new feature by creating a new variant and adding it to that variant. So here, back in my project view, I can expand over my config space, wherein I already have some variant models, and via hovering over the config space itself and clicking on Create Variant Model, I can create my new variant model. And the dialog asks me for giving the variant a name. And next, asking again where, so in which config space the variant shall be added. And then I'm also asked whether I want to inherit from existing variants, the feature selections and attribute values, and whether I want to either make a full configuration or a partial one. So here I'm starting from scratch with a full configuration. So next, I'm opening my variant model to see how it looks like initially. You can see it contains some error markers if we look here at the left-hand side, which we want to get rid of. Of course, when we configure the variant, but first things first, let's add the new feature USA here to this variant. So I navigate to that place. Let's also expand the daytime running light section so that we see the auto completion of the relation. So if we select USA, we expect due to this requires relation, the feature hazard warning to be selected. And as you can see, exactly this is the case. After selecting USA, hazard warning is also selected as part of the auto resolving. So now back to the errors. I can, of course, click on the error markers on the left-hand side, or instead, like we do here, I can go to our main menu and here hover over the error entry. So I can see here all the open issues in my variant. And also if I click here, I'm navigated to the place in the model where this issue exists, and I can fix it. So here, for example, I need to decide whether to use xenon or halogen for high beam and for low beam. So I'm doing that. And finally, I also want to add a daytime running light, LED in this case. So to do that, I'm using the search function that is included here. I'm searching for this feature. It easily pops up after I entered LED, and I can just select it and add it to the variant this way. Okay, now I have configured my new variant for the US market with my new feature inside. Next, I may want to compare it to other existing variants. For doing this, again, I hover over the configuration space and I click on the Open Matrix icon to open the variant matrix, which gives me on the left-hand side the features of my feature models, along with attributes inside and relations. And then one column per variant that shows me in each column which features are selected in the respective variant and which values the attributes are set to accordingly. Via the left-hand side menu that's collapsed at the beginning, I can also apply filters to this view. So for example, here we trigger the differences filter to see all the places where these variants are different from each other. Okay, let's go back to the variant model itself. Here, I can now also do something that was not possible before. From within the web client, I can actually start a transformation. So via the transformation menu, I can find the dialog that lets me select the transformation I want to trigger. And once this is done, I can actually press Start Job. This is called Start Job for a reason, because we are now running these transformations on server side as a job, so you can schedule multiple of those jobs. And while this job is running, you can continue working on the web client, in your web client. So here, I want to briefly sum up what we have seen up to now. So what are the benefits you get up, and point out a little bit more the benefits you get out of this. So with the Pure Variants web client that is now available with Pure Variants 6, in addition to the desktop client, you can provide for your users installation-free access. So all the users that need to occasionally edit a feature model or create and edit variant models or compare variants or run a transformation can now do this with help of the web client without installing anything on client side. Also, this provides, as you have seen, a rather simplified UI, which is specifically made for those users that are mainly working in other engineering tools and then can easily find their way if they need to configure a variant, if they want to compare some variants, if they want to trigger a transformation in this UI. Also, if you think about working with other third-party engineering tools that have a web-based UI, you now will have a more seamless interaction between the Pure Variant side and the third-party tool side. Both are running in the same browser, and as we will also see, there are some really nice ways of navigating between those assets, which make this really seamless interaction. And last but not least, that's a big point. We listened to you. Many customers requested it for a long time, that we also add a kind of reader capability so that that users that don't want to actually edit the feature and variant models, but that want to see it and want to make use of it in decision making can do so without ramping up license consumption. So here we are happy to announce that for the web client, we make it possible to create read-only users that have then the possibility to do exactly that, to enter the web client, to browse the feature models, the variant models, compare them to each other without consuming a license. So with that, I want to hand over to Rachna for the next part.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you so much, Robert. So what we saw right now was how can we actually create a new feature model as well as a variant model while we are using the web client of Pure Variants. And now what I'm going to introduce to you are the two new connectors, wherein the first one is the new Pure Variants connector with CodeBeamer. And here I'm going to show you how does the integration of Pure Variants with CodeBeamer works. So assuming that I'm an engineer who now has to work with the requirement specification, let's dive into the tool and see how does this work. So firstly, what you see over here on the right-hand side, what we have is the in-tool integration from Pure Variants, where you are able to have a look at the feature model that we had just now created in the web client. And on the left-hand side, what you see is the 150% superset specification document. This document consists of not only the variable requirements, but it also consists of all the common requirements, which would be then a part of all of your variants. Then moving on to start with the first step, we will select a requirement and then make use of the in-tool integration on the right-hand side and click on restriction to start restricting this requirement with the feature. As you can see that this requirement is already restricted to one of the features, that is Canada. But now, because I have some changes in my specification document, I would like to add another restriction to the same feature that I had before in here. So I have the requirement in here, after which when I go into the restriction mode, you see that we have Canada in here. And now I start typing in and say that I want another feature called US as well to be restricted to this specific requirement. So I type in USA and then apply. So the moment I do this, this requirement of mine is now restricted with 2 features, thus showing the structural variability in here. Moving on, I would now like to demonstrate what does the parametric variability in here look like. So as you can see, we have a requirement over here, which already consists of a value. And now I would like to show you how simple is it to add in a value in here just with the help of the substitution syntax over here. As you can see, I will now select this requirement and once again make use of the in-tool integration on the right-hand side, and then click on calculations to insert in a formula from where I am actually going to derive my value. So to start with, I will start with writing in the name of the feature, which is DRL LED in this case, and then direct it to the attribute from where I want to derive my value. After clicking on apply, you will now be able to see that this formula has now been inserted in my requirement, as you can see on the left hand side. Yeah. So moving on, I would now like to show you what does the preview of the variant model that Robert just created looks like when we are using it with Codebeamer. So I selected my variant, that is Highlight USA, by making use of the drop-down menu and then clicked on preview. Right after doing that, as you can see on the left-hand side, Pure Variants helps me in highlighting all the requirements which are a part of this specific variant, whereas it grays out all the other requirements which are not a part of my variant for the US market. What is also interesting to see here is that while you are in the preview mode, you will also be able to see that the formula you put in here before now has the value that it has derived from a specific attribute. Now, moving on, the next step would be to actually derive my variant specific asset. And to do that, first I would reset the view of my preview and then move to the seamless integration that we have with the web client, and then come to the interface that Robert just displayed. So on the left-hand side, we have the configuration space in which I have Highlight USA as the variant selected. But at this point, I now have another requirement. Sorry, but at this point, I now have another requirement which says that I have to change the attribute value for my US market. And that means all I have to do is just click on edit and change the value 100 to 120. So this is exactly what I did. Now the attribute value 120 is what I have specifically for my US market. Now the last step would be to run a transformation to achieve my variant specific asset. So I click on run transformation and then select the transformation type that I want for this variant copy, that is Codebeamer working set, and start the job. The moment I start the job, you will be able to see that a message over here that says the transformation has been successful displays. And right after that, I will go back to my Codebeamer interface and easily navigate from the default working set to the Highlight USA working set variant copy, which I just created. And after doing that, I will now be able to look at the variant specific copy, which consists of only the requirements for my US market. And what you can also see here that along with it, it also shows you the changes which have been made as compared to the superset specification document, which is the value has been changed for this specific requirement. So what we just saw is exactly how the Pure Variants integration with Codebeamer works. So moving on, I would now like to show you how the second connector that we are going to launch today, that is new Pure Variants connector for Polarin, works with the Pure Variants integration. Some of you might already have had a look at this before, but let's go ahead and see what are the capabilities that Pure Variants has to offer us with Polarin. So moving on into the tool, as you can see here, we have a project called Carlite Demo running in here. And first, I'm going to have a look at my Pure Variants icon. And by clicking on it, I can easily navigate to the 150% requirement specification document in here. And once again, similar to what we have for our existing tools and now including CodeBeamer, on the right-hand side, I have my in-tool integration for Pure Variants, and the left-hand side displays the 150% specification document. To start with, I would select a requirement and then go onto the right-hand side and then click on restriction to restrict this requirement with one of the features. And in this case, it is the automatic hazard warning. So I apply, and now as you can see, we have a small table in here which says restriction, and now hazard warning becomes a part of that restriction. So it helps in easy viewing of which feature is restricted to which requirement. Moving on to display the parametric variability, I'll once again select the requirement and click on calculations. But this time, I'm not going to show you how we add a calculation in here, because this is something we saw in CodeBeamer before. But now we are going to have a look at how can we also modify a calculation in here. So that is exactly what I did. Based on the needs of my specification document, I have now modified the calculation in here for this specific case. And now I select a variant, which is again highlight USA in this case, to show you what a preview with Polarin would look like. So now I just click on preview. And as you can see, once again, on the left-hand side, all the requirements which are a part of my US variant get highlighted, whereas everything else is grayed out. So yes, this is a similar feature that we have for our existing tools and also for CodeBeamer. And now I would just go back and reset my preview to the original visualization. The next step that I would also now want to do is to have my variant copy for this specific variant, that is highlight USA. And in order to do that, I would now navigate to the web client, where in the config space, I have this variant, which is pre-selected. And now I would just trigger a transformation. So I click on the transformation icon and then select the Polarin transformation in this case, which is a Polarin copy transformation. So as you see, we offer different types, and then start the job. You can see that while the transformation is being performed, you can also have a look at the status in here. And after we receive a successful status, I would go back to Polarin and navigate to the newly created folder, which is called variants copy, to finally have a look at the variant specific asset that we just derived. So this asset now is valid for my US market, or let's say the US variant. So with this, I have now demonstrated the capabilities that Pure Variants has to offer with the two new tools that we are launching today, that is CodeBeamer and Polarin. Now, the next question is that how easy or difficult is it to deploy this? So to answer that, I would move on and give you a little glimpse to what goes on behind the scenes. So the first one is, we start with saying that it is easier deployment, right? And then why would I say that it is easier to deploy? So to answer this question, I would first like to let you know that we have 4 deployment templates now. So this actually deals with simpler situations to much complex situations. So all that you have to do here is just select a template and configure it, and you're ready to go. So it is as easy as plug and play. And to support this further, what we first have in here is the containerized deliveries. So as you can see, the containerized deliveries over here has all my 4 templates, which at the moment are supported by Docker. And all the services and servers, since they are containerized, it's pretty easy to deploy them. Moving on, we have configurable servers and services. And what this means is that all the servers and services that we have, for instance, if I want to deploy the web client, it is as easy as just selecting the web client and deploying it. Next on, These deployments can actually happen locally on your server machines, or it is also possible to have it on cloud. Since all of our servers and databases are servers and services are containerized, it is pretty easy to resolve the security updates as well. So for instance, if you have changes that are being made to the installer packages, it can be done quick, and this eventually helps us in keeping the servers and the services up to date. Last but not the least, what is also worth mentioning in here is that web client, which is actually our front end, while the server, which is the model server, and the databases related to it, which is our back end, can now actually be updated independently. And then moving on to one of the most important, and I think a critical thing that we can do now, is because we benefit over here from the containerized deliveries that I mentioned before. With the web client, now you can run transformations parallelly, as Robert also mentioned before. So we can have parallel transformations running at the same time. And this at the moment is only available for the 3 web-based engineering tools we have, that is Polarin, Codebeamer, and DOS Next Generation. So with this, I would like to once again summarize and say that the new containerized deployment we have makes our initial deployment easy and highly scalable. And now I would like to give the stage to Danilo and let him talk about some of the interesting news, which I'm sure all of you are waiting for. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Rachna. So I will quickly move on to some topics. Before that, let me say one thing which is important. You may have seen us talking about web here, but as Robert mentioned, I think he said this, and it's a clear message that the desktop client and the web client, from our point of view, complement each other. They are not competing. The desktop client is still the power tool, and the web client is the easiest way to get people involved into product line engineering. And so we think this is a perfect match for the future of product line engineering, this combination, and it's not one or the other, it's both. So let me go on to share my screen here. Well, I know that I have the task to give you the date of the release, but before that, I will go with just one slide ahead before that. So let me switch to this one. Yes, so we have to talk about licensing. So what is to be known about licensing at the day of the release? When you want to run PureVariant 6, you will need new license files. The PureVariant 5 licenses will not work. You need to get new license files. We do have a procedure for this one, and we will issue the license files in the usual process. Most of you have seen when they came from 4 to 5, like 2 years ago. So this is one important thing to know. The next thing is we have added a new capability, a new very powerful capability to run transformations on the server side, and this requires also licenses. The licenses are the same floating licenses which you already have, so you don't need to acquire any new licenses or spend more money for this. The transformation service will happily use the licenses you already have for PureVariant Enterprise 6 and use them then for transformation service, and you can decide how you split this. And the last one, just to focus on something we put in based on the user request and also based on our commitment to help our customers to get their work done easily. We added the read-only users in unlimited number to PureVariant 6 licenses, and it's not it is included in your existing license package. So you don't have to pay anything. It's not an extra component you have to order. We keep our licensing as simple and as easy as it was before. You just have to go up to PureVariant Enterprise 6 and deploy the web client, which we learned is pretty easy from Rachna. So this is everything I have to say before we come now to the revelation of the general availability date. Without any further ado, it will be available for you for download at December 5th. That is 2 weeks minus 1 day from now. And at this day, you will be able to use it. So get your servers ready to deploy the web client. And with this, I would like to make a short summary of what we have seen. And it's not all what is in Pure Enterprise 6. The newsletter will give you more details, the changelog, you know all of that. But the things we have seen today and which we are extremely proud of is, of course, the new Pure web client. We put a lot of love and effort into this one. And it is a great way to access Pure data. Of course, the new connector for CodeBeamer, which is accompanied by another connector. We have the connector for Polarion there. One thing we added, and I hope you will really like it, and you really see the benefit of this one, the free reader access for everyone who needs to access data through the web client. The transformation as a service, that is something it's extremely useful. It is a lot of fun to see the transformations run in parallel easily, as many as you want, as long as you have licenses. And last but not least, our effort to help you to easier deploy all of these powerful technologies, services, and whatnot through the containerized deployment templates. That is all highlights I wanted to share with you. And we now will come to the Q&A session, which is led by Robert. So Robert, please take over.
Yes, thanks, Danilo. And we actually have a lot of questions, so I can already say we will not be able to cover them all in the session, but I can promise you we will follow up on the questions we are not able to answer now. So with that, let's pick some of those. So one is the web client able to handle customized data models in the sense of own element types and attributes? And some additional questions about, is it maybe even possible to design customized pop-ups in the UI? So here I can say, if you have introduced the type model, you can make use of the types that you have introduced via the web UI. Adding additional UI elements, this is something we have not included here yet. So this is not a thing that's available for the moment. Then we also, give me a minute. We have here a question. Can I also see the attributes in the feature tree? Maybe it was not so easy to spot with so much going on. Yes, you can. You will see the attributes in the feature tree when you look at feature models, when you look at variant models, and when you look into the matrix view. And you can also see them in the in-tool integrations. Then one question more about licensing. So maybe Danilo, I will hand this over to you. Will plugins like the CodeBeamer plugin be licensed like a full client? So will there be read-only usage, or will you draw a license when you use these?
Yes, so the usage of the in-tool integrations requires a full license. So the availability of the functionality of these connectors and in-tool integrations we have seen is restricted to users with a full license. It will not be available to the read-only license users. I don't know, Robert?
Just checking more questions. One also, we talked about containerization and using Docker for this. How about Kubernetes support?
So maybe I take this one. It is we have been focusing on Docker in the current deployment templates. Kubernetes is to be added. We are aware of the need and also of the capabilities of this one. but decided to go with Vue for the really easy deployable Dockerized deployments, and then we'll move on to Kubernetes in the next releases.
We also mentioned that at the beginning you have certain tools only available when we talk about triggering transformations via the web client, and the question is going to that direction. Isn't transforming requirements a bit short? Shouldn't also SysML, UML models and so on be possible to be transformed at the same time? Here I can say, of course, what we show. So this is a start, right? We don't stop here. We will continue working on the web client, and more capabilities will be added over time. So I would agree with you. Of course, more things should also be possible there. So then, we have also, maybe that's an interesting question regarding OSLC. Will OSLC links be available between Codebeamer and Pure Variants is here the question. So maybe here I can say, in general, we already in earlier release added OSLC capabilities to Pure Variants. So Pure Variants can act as a OSLC provider, so that you can create links, OSLC links between features and other engineering assets. So if another engineering tool is OSLC enabled and can consume links, then we can connect. Then there's a more organizational question. Will there be a recording available? And the answer is yes. So all of you who joined today's events will be immediately able to access the recording after the event finished. And we will also, I think, publish this in other ways to also make it available to a larger audience. Okay. Then maybe one more question, if it's okay, about also regarding licensing. Can we use the read-only users for accessing models via the desktop client?
That is a good question. The read-only user and the capabilities are added specifically for the web client. There is limited functionality available for those users in the desktop client, but it will draw a full license. So a desktop client is always fully licensed, and it does not provide a license-free access, but those users will be able to use the Pure Variant desktop client to access those models read-only on the server. So it's not the same thing as the one. The read-only functionality is only specified for the web client access, and as I said, for without licensing, with the desktop client always draws a license.
Okay.
So,
then.
Yeah, I also, Robert, you go through this. Let's see if there's anything. It's a lot of lots of questions.
Yeah, yes.
We have to see. So you give us a second to go through these ones, Robert. Maybe you pick one more of general interest. I have seen a quick one, right? I don't know exactly how to answer this. We still support all the existing integrations. So none of the integrations we have had in Pure Variants 5 have been discontinued. So for those lovers of doors, of course, they can still run the transformation, but it's not available in the web, for web access. And the nice integrations, we need slightly more web-based tools than DOORS 9, which means you still can use it and with full support, but it's not available through the web, just through the desktop client. So,
okay, maybe one more simple one is the in the feature tree in the web client. Are the relations also visible, like they are in the desktop client? And yes, the answer is yes, not only visible, but also navigable. So you can click on the relations to be navigated to the place where they exist in the models.
And one which I will answer a bit more general than it was asked for. What is the journey forward with the connectors? And yes, we are looking forward to integrate more connectors in the web-based way. So we do have tools which provide web interfaces, and we are looking forward to integrate those. As usual, once we are ready, we are going to announce this. For those listening here, of course, we are happy to listen to you. What is the tools you want us to have integrated? We also have had here in the chat and the question and answer requests for other tool integrations. And as we did for one of those connectors we have seen today, we happily co-develop together with customers these integrations. Just come to us, approach us, and we will try to find a solution for this one. But definitely, we will go forward, integrate more connectors as they come along, as we see everyone moving to the web for a good reason. For most of the engineering tools, we expect that to happen in the next couple of years. So let's see what else. Robert. What else we should ask?
Maybe that one here. Is it possible to import from Excel configurations, variant configurations? So I can say here, not with the web client, but if you have the desktop client running, it's possible to import from Excel feature models as well as variant configurations. It's very flexible even regarding the format, as you can define ranges on Excel side and give them names and tell Pure Variants what is the meaning of these ranges. So where does Pure Variants find the features? Where does it find the feature selections? So if you want to do things like, if you want to do that, you need to work with the desktop client at the moment.
Let's see, we have a couple of smaller questions. Yeah, I have one which I picked out before, which I would like to answer, maybe as the last or the answer to maybe Robert and Rachna. You pick each one a question you want to answer as we are approaching the end of the event. So we had the question about what we call zero install. And what does this mean? Well, we refer with zero install to the use of the web client. As you have seen, for the users, there is no installation necessary. And all the capabilities, starting from editing, creating feature models to running transformation, requires just a browser. Unfortunately, due to technical reasons, it's not possible for us to have a similar easy experience for desktop client, as most of the tool integrations require us to have like administrative rights and needs an installation on the local machine. So this is a different thing. We would like to have it easier for you, but it's practically not possible for us. So for the idea is really that for most users who are just asset engineers will be in future be able to work with the web client instead of having to install the Pure Variants desktop client. But for those which have to work with desktop tools, they still have the need, which means we still have the desktop client and all of the things which come with it, the good and also the maybe not so nice parts of it, as it is a local tool which needs to be run on the client. So, Robert, Rachna, have you picked your last question you want to answer?
Not yet.
Well, I feel most of the important questions that we see here have been answered, I believe.
Yeah, there's maybe one more here I have here. When we work with the web client, is it also possible to configure basically the user access rights there? That's something that still requires the desktop client, right? So there you can from there you can import if you want to do so the users and roles from Active Directory, LDAP, and can then assign access rights accordingly so define which role can access which projects and so on. But then, of course, these rules are respected when you work with the web client, and users that access the data via the web client only, of course, get access, read access, write access to the projects, to the models that they have been granted access to.
So, Robert, you are the master of ceremony.
Yeah, so we reached the time. So here, I want to finish by thanking everyone. Thank you to the great audience. Thank you for the many great questions. And as we said earlier, we will follow up on the ones we didn't answer here. Thank you also to you, Rachna and Danilo, for making this event successful here. Yeah, if you have any question and want to know more details about what we have shown today, I can say two things. First of all, of course, in the near future, you can expect webcasts to be announced, where we will cover the single points that we have touched today in more detail. And you can always reach out to us to get a session for you specifically to ask more questions and get to know the details. And with that, maybe some last words from you, Rachna, Danilo.
Yeah, Rachna, please go ahead.
Yeah, so I would like to once again thank all of you to be able to be present in here, and I'm much looking forward to seeing you at the other side where you start using the tool, and yeah, looking forward to working with you on that. So thank you once again, and maybe
Yes.
Danilo.
Yeah, of course, we thank you, our valued customers and users, but I also would like to take the opportunity to thank the team behind this, all the developers, the consultants, engineers, everyone at Pure Systems who has been working very, very hard to get here. This is really, really something we can be proud of, and we are proud of. And I hope as you, as the users, will see also the dedication, all the things we put into this one, and you will like it as much as we do. And with that, we're looking forward to your feedback, and I would like to close this event now. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.